Hello, this video will cover Universal Design for Learning. It's part one of a three-part series. This section will cover multiple means of engagement. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to define UDL and identify the three principles, which are engagement, representation, and action and expression. You'll be able to analyze the structure and content of your course in relation to student engagement and motivation. And you will also be able to apply some teaching strategies and best practices in your course to increase engagement. UDL is a framework that aims to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people. And it's based on scientific insights into how humans learn. I've underlined and bolded improving and optimized teaching for all people because that's really what UDL is aiming to do. You want to adhere to not only the differences in abilities because students need ADA compliance due to disabilities that they have, but also you want to think about your students and their different talents, their backgrounds, their ages, and things like that. And you're really adhering to them based on these insights about how we learn and how differently we learn. Some people say that the way we learn is as different as our fingerprints. So following the UDL guidelines is really a great way to reach your entire class. This approach offers flexibility in the way that students access material, engage with it, and show what they know. The goal of following the UDL framework is so that you accommodate to the individual learning differences that we all have and help give students an equal opportunity to succeed. Some of the common differences include age, cultural backgrounds, educational backgrounds, work experience, time restraints, resources, and disabilities, among other things. Like I said before, you might think of UDL and gravitate towards the idea of accommodating those with disabilities, and that is definitely a part of the concepts of UDL, but it really is about everyone and the way that we all learn differently due to our different lives and learning styles. An example of how you can accommodate to all of these common differences is by perhaps adding closed captioning to a video. So for instance, that would help someone who is deaf or someone who is learning English as a second language, but additionally, it may help a student who is learning in a loud work environment and they are unable to hear the video and concentrate on that audio. So by having the closed captioning, that adheres to their needs as well. Neuroscience tells us that there are three broad networks of the brain. First, we have the affective network, or the why of learning, the recognition network, or the what of learning, and the strategic network, or the how of learning. These correlate to three principles of teaching, which are engagement. So you want to provide multiple means of engagement in your class and get students excited about the work. Through multiple means of content representation, which adheres to all learners by varying the types of content that you make available to the students. And through action and expression by making different types of assignments available to the students so that they are able to express their knowledge in the best way possible for them. And with that being said, keep in mind that these three areas, it's not one size fits all. Students engage in different ways, they comprehend information differently depending on the format, and they perform differently depending on the assignment type. So the guideline provided by CAST is to provide multiple means of engagement in your classroom. Other than recognizing the common differences of the learners in your class, you can further understand learning needs through things like a pre-course meeting using Google Hangout Meets or Zoom. There you can get to know the students, set some expectations for your course, and you can get the chance for course questions and suggestions from the students that you can take into consideration and perhaps modify your class. Additionally, you can use Google Forms to do a pre-course survey, and with that you would determine their experience and background knowledge, and you could perhaps create groups based on this or gear your assignments more towards their experience or background. You can get to know their familiarity with technology, seeing if there's tools that they can use, or maybe put together groups with some more experienced students and some less experienced students so they can learn from each other and be successful. You could also do a post-course survey to get student feedback and to record your own feedback so that next time around you have this documentation where you can go back and edit your class based on that feedback. You can Recruit interest before the course even begins. So here are some other suggestions. You can have a welcome page with a welcome video for your students. So as soon as they enter your online learning environment like Blackboard or Google Classroom, they have a welcoming page with some directions on what to do and probably a welcoming video that goes along with that, perhaps outlining the syllabus or giving some navigational help within Google Classroom or Blackboard so that the students get off on the right foot. Additionally, you could have a pre-course syllabus or a Blackboard or Google Hangout Meets quiz or some sort of review game to make sure that the students are reading the syllabus, getting into Blackboard or any other LMS, and getting engaged with the material right away and just preventing any confusion or discrepancies from the get-go. You could also do a course introduction discussion board, and that would get students talking with each other and introduced to their peers. They could exchange contact information. They could even share a short video about themselves or a photo or something like that, so that they can form a sense of community, which is engaging for the students. Additionally, you'll want to engage them with the material right away. So having the first assignment due sooner rather than later is always a good practice, because then the students are engaging with the materials and they can get a grasp on whether they can handle the course or not. And they can also get a little bit of feedback from you. So you're engaging with them in conversation and they are beginning to engage with the materials. Additionally, you'll want to provide a UDL syllabus, and we will talk about that on the next slide. A UDL syllabus should highlight the goals of the course and include a note from the instructor about why the course material is relevant to the students, so that they understand why you've chosen that selected work and what value it has to them. You'll also want to state that objectives will be connected directly to assignments each week, and that will increase the understanding of the purpose of that assignment. It's helpful right after each assignment to list the objective again, even if you are listing it at the top of your syllabus, what objectives are covered in the class or what goals are covered in the class. You can also put it right next to the assignment, so students can see that in the syllabus, and then also even in Blackboard, you can include the objectives so that they see the purpose right next to the assignment and they can make that connection. You can also use a graphic organizer to show the structure of the course material and how the objectives relate to each other and to the course material. You want to explain as well that there are going to be a variety of resources used in the classroom, so that the students can see the differentiation that you've created in your class. And by that, I mean providing a variety of materials, so not just overloading your class with text, for instance, but adding things like audio clips, videos, and other creative resources like visuals and things like that. Additionally, you'll want to outline your routine. So it probably should be some type of structured routine, really. And the expectations of your course should be explained so that students can plan and prioritize for the semester. Establishing a schedule that states when the assignments are due and when they should be able to get feedback is also really important, especially in an online class where it may not be clear. You want to make that clear in your syllabus. So when it comes to engagement, you'll want to provide some options for recruiting interest, sustaining effort and persistence, and student self-regulation. You'll want to optimize individual choice and autonomy. Provide learners with as much discretion and autonomy as possible by providing choices in things such as the level of perceived challenge. So for instance, you could say that an assignment is easy or this assignment is difficult, but your students may not interpret that in the same way. Some students you may say an assignment's easy and they say this assignment is not easy for me. And you may say an assignment is difficult and it may be very easy for someone. So you really need to take down that labeling of your assignments, because things are easy to some people that are not easy to others and vice versa. So by allowing them to perceive their level of challenge on their own gives them more engagement in the class and more control over their learning process. Additionally, if you're saying an assignment is easy, someone may say, what is the point of this assignment if it's so easy? And it also deters students from doing quality work. So for example, they might be scared of doing the assignment because they find it difficult, and it may create a mental barrier for them just because you've simply said that the assignment is going to be difficult. You'll also want to optimize the choice and autonomy in the type of rewards or recognition available in your class. So provide options or let students choose. So for example, you just typically give letter grades out, but that may not be as motivating for some students as it is to others. So offering things like a certificate as a reward instead of a grade, or maybe featuring someone's work or research in the school newspaper, or maybe, for instance, they design a poster or an advertisement and you put it in the newspaper or post it around campus. Additionally, you could provide connections for the students, like they could complete a project and then someone with the best project gets connected to an internship and they can use that as a submission to their application. Or additionally, you can provide some competition in your classroom and motivate students through games or rewards like being number one. And even allowing students to choose their rewards can motivate them as they work on the projects in your course. Obviously, when it's possible, you'll let them choose, and choosing things that are appropriate is key. But whatever you can do to engage them to do the best quality work is really the idea here. You'll also want to provide choice and autonomy towards the context or content used for practicing and assessing skills. So don't tunnel vision specific skills into one assignment or topic. Provide options for achieving a goal, whether that be through independent research and study, group discussion, and active learning, or in pairs. Allow students to choose how they want to participate. Additionally, provide some contextual variations so that students can practice skills in relation to a context that relates to them. For example, allowing students to choose from a variety of topics to complete an assignment, or just simply letting them choose their own topic. And additionally, choosing whether or not they want to work in a group or individually or in pairs is also helpful. You can also optimize choice and autonomy in the tools and that are used for information gathering or production. Students might engage more with certain tools or with certain resources more than others, or even more so than the ones that you are showing them or making available to them. Allow students, when possible, to use resources that they know of and tools that they know of in order to increase their engagement. You'll also want to provide choice and autonomy in the sequence or timing for completion of subcomponent tasks. So providing a guided timeline for smaller subcomponent tasks in your course can be helpful to some students, but don't require all of the students to follow that timeline. By requiring them to submit certain assignments on certain dates. You don't want to create busy work for others while you're trying to accommodate students who need more guidance. Providing the choice to either follow a sequence or not can be decided by the students. Additionally, you'll want to use the flipped classroom method where students learn at their own pace. So in the flipped classroom method, that allows students to watch lectures, read, and absorb other content on their own time rather than during class, for instance, in a lecture. Then that time during class can be spent on applying their knowledge through classroom activities. Design activities and sources of information so that learning outcomes are relatable, have real-world application, and/or reflects a purpose that is clear to their participants. You can do this by allowing students to make choices, if possible, about the topics of their assignments or activities so that the learning is personalized and contextualized to their lives, culturally relevant, socially relevant, and age and ability appropriate. At the end of the activity, you want them to be able to have something that they can apply in their real life. So whether they're working on a project that maybe relates to an internship that they're doing or is geared towards the field that they want to go into, allowing them to connect the purpose of the assignment to something that they can relate to while not losing the value is important for students, and it would engage their interest more in the assignment. Some more examples of how you can optimize relevance, value, and authenticity would be to provide tasks that allow for active participation. So active learning can be often more engaging than passive learning. Passive learning includes things like watching lectures, watching videos, or doing readings, while active learning activities challenge students to think critically and work with others, even teach others. in order to channel that sense of engagement with the material. So you can include things like presentations, either individual or group presentations, group projects, discussion boards, debates, peer reviews, or concept mapping, or even an activity like a jigsaw activity, which is where the class splits into groups that become experts on different topics. Then the groups are reorganized, having at least one expert from each of the groups, so that in the new groups they can begin teaching each other about those said topics. It's like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle coming together. Additionally, you'll want to include activities that foster the use of imagination. So, engaging students by allowing them to make sense of complex ideas in creative ways. So, things like simulations. Like, for example, I know in business courses, Harvard Business Publishing has a lot of gamified simulations out there. You could incorporate virtual reality into your classroom if possible. Gamification, so things like Kahoot or creating a crossword puzzle or something for your class to learn key terms or vocabulary, and even storytelling rather than just reading an article. It could be more engaging and stick with students more than an article would because they can remember and follow a story. So, additionally, you'll want to minimize threats and distractions from your students so that they can stay focused and engage with the material. You'll want to create an accepting and supportive classroom environment and let the students know that if they need help, they can come to you and that they should be accepted by their peers and by you during the class. One thing you can do is explain in your syllabus, Blackboard, or even during your first class session that your classroom is a supportive space. Letting students know that explicitly can go a long way. You also want to provide them support with things like Blackboard support tools. So putting a link to Blackboard, the student Blackboard help page is really helpful for students if they're having trouble navigating Blackboard or submitting assignments or something. They have some resources that can provide them assistance with that if maybe you can't, or maybe it's at night, they're available 24/7. So being able to link them with that support and guiding them on where to get that support is also helpful. Additionally, if you're using new technology in your class that they may not be familiar with, you could provide them with guides or videos. You'd also want to encourage your students to have that same mindset too. So, creating this accepting and supportive environment, maybe you teach them about online netiquette, or online etiquette, which is called netiquette, and just setting up appropriate guidelines for class sessions and group work so that the discussions and interactions between the students and yourself are appropriate, especially in an online environment. Additionally, you'll want to vary the input of new and predictable information. So basically, this is talking about the breakdown of your class. So if you're creating your class schedule, you can also not only put it in your syllabus, but maybe you want to make charts or checklists or a calendar. So you can, of course, utilize the calendar feature in Blackboard, which populates as you add items with due dates like quizzes and assignments and discussion boards so that students can see those upcoming things on a calendar. But additionally, you can distribute checklists or utilize the announcement feature in your course to remind students of upcoming tasks. Additionally, you can create a classroom routine that will help you and your students manage your time properly. So, for example, knowing that on Mondays you have to have your first discussion board post up on the discussion board, and then by Thursday you have to have 2 replies to appear, and every week that stays the same so that students aren't confused or constantly looking for the due dates, but it's really convenient and then they can base their schedule on that. Additionally, you want to utilize visuals such as concept maps to help students visualize complex subjects. So connections between materials, class activities, and topics are not always clear to students, even though you might think they would be. But concept mapping or using visuals is a great way for students to visualize these connections. You can utilize free online content mapping tools like there's MindMap or Even just creating something in PowerPoint using shapes and lines and circles and connecting those and making a concept map that way, if you're familiar with PowerPoint, it could be easier to do it that way. Additionally, this is something that you can do with students in a class activity, is try to talk through some of the key concepts and create a concept map together. You'll also want to heighten the importance of goals and objectives. So clearly stating your learning outcomes for the course and for each assignment, so that the purpose, value, and expectations are clear. And you can list these things. Obviously, you'll want to list your course objectives in your syllabus, but you can also mention them right in the assignment where you have your assignment hosted in Blackboard or your Google Classroom. So you would write your assignment description and then also write the objectives that are matching and lining up with that assignment so the students see that. You can require them to restate the goal in their assignment so that you know they're aware of what the goal of the assignment is. Additionally, you can display the goal in multiple ways. So you would want to write it out again in your Blackboard course or syllabus. You can discuss it with the students in a class meeting or in a video. And then you can provide some sample work for students so that they can understand what the desired outcome should look like. You can also engage learners in assessments about in assessment discussions about what constitutes excellence so that they are aware of your expectations and that the goal and the means of getting to that goal are clear for the students. You also want to foster collaboration and community. So rather than individual work the whole time, you can have group work. It's a balance. Take a look at the percentage of their workload and determine what is group and what is individual and kind of balance it out from there. Additionally, in groups, you can have different roles and responsibilities. You'll want to create expectations for your groups as well and allow students to choose their role in the group. If you have different roles or different approaches to the assignment, maybe students can break off and do different parts and then come together and put their work together, but allowing them to choose what part they want to do will engage them even more so with that topic. Additionally, you can construct communities of learners engaged in common interests and activities. So remember in the beginning of this video, I was talking about surveying your students so that you could find their common interests and put them together in groups. And this may be a chance for you to create a more engaged learning group than you otherwise would have had you done randomized groups. So like I'm saying, survey students, make groups, or allow for self-sign-up groups. And don't discourage working with friends because that could really help people, especially if they're living together as roommates, or if, again, they have common interests or their schedules just work out, or if they really just enjoy working together and can collaborate in a comfortable way. You also want to encourage and support opportunities for peer interactions and support. So things like peer feedback, group member evaluations to make sure that the group members are all contributing positively and equally. And then discussion board replies. So allowing the students to reply to a post of their choice is important so that they are having a conversation that they can truly contribute to. You'll also want students to incorporate their background knowledge and past experiences so that they can teach each other new things that, maybe you wouldn't just naturally draw upon. Additionally, you'll want to encourage students to incorporate their background knowledge and past experiences, letting them contribute to this group discussion and talk about their own personal experiences and their own insights will allow them to share with others and create that sense of community that you're looking for. You'll also want to increase mastery-oriented feedback and resources that optimize motivation. So providing prompts, reminders, guides, rubrics, and checklists that focus on determination in the face of distractions. Elevating the frequency of self-reflection and self-reinforcements. You can offer students the opportunity to journal, blog, or write reflections about their work to engage them with the idea of self-autonomy and self-determination. You can also provide coaches, community mentors, guest speakers, or other inspirational agents, for instance, in as like a tutor, or as maybe a member of the community comes and helps students with a project and gives them feedback. Maybe you have a guest speaker during your class and students can come prepared with questions for that person. Additionally, you'll want to provide feedback that encourages perseverance and focuses on developing self-awareness, identifying patterns of errors, and encouraging positive strategies for future success. So when you're giving feedback to your students, you if even if you see them doing something wrong, tell them, encourage the things that they're doing good and tell them to keep trying. I to ask them to identify parts of their project where they should recognize what they're doing wrong and change that, maybe allowing them to offer a draft first and then being able to submit their final paper with the correction there, will help them identify the pattern of error and then change it before they just submit a paper and forget about it. Um, and then obviously in any course, you'd want to encourage some positive strategies for future success. So future assignments, what do you need to do to be successful in the class? The idea here is that you want to create a culture of explanation instead of a culture of right and wrong. So sometimes these things can get blurred, especially in an online class. So when you're giving feedback in an online environment, especially, you want to make sure that you are making this feedback very clear to your students, whether that be in writing, maybe you record a video or something, maybe you record an audio clip for your students, and really try to explain how they can um, increase their productivity and success in the class. Going off of that, it's also helpful to give the students some personal coping strategies. So at the beginning of your lesson or of your class, it's nice to stop and set a moment to set intentions. Take a peaceful moment where you can take a deep breath, and focus on the task at hand, the class. Have them think, what do you want to get out of this activity? What do you want to get out of this lesson today? What do you want to get out of this class session? And having them think about that, telling them to put their phone in another room, telling them to focus, or telling them if you're in person in the class to put their phone on silent. The students know these things, but they forget, and really drawing them to recognize their intentions can engage them more with the material if they're not distracted. So another thing you can also do is create opportunities for clarity and direction. So maybe students not engaged because they're just confused in the class. So making your office hours at a suitable time so that the students can come to you and it's not inconvenient, or they have a time when they can't meet you because of a class conflict or something like that. It can be detrimental. So surveying your students about good times for office hours, or having varying times for your office hours, or having virtual times for office hours that a student can't make it to campus is also important so that they can get the clarity and ask questions when they need to. Additionally, you can have a discussion board in your class where you can call it the muddiest point, or like common questions, or something to that nature, where the students can ask things that they're confused about, and either you can respond to them or their peers can respond to them. And then additionally, those things are stored in one place where other students can reference those questions and get answers as well. So when it comes to engagement in a UDL environment, you'll want to focus on optimizing students' choice in the learning environment, making content and activities relatable to all students through varying topics, by including active learning practices, and by allowing for creative freedoms. You'll want to minimize distractions by creating a welcoming environment and classroom community that is goal-oriented and provides varying opportunities and resources for success. And you'll want to encourage self-reflection and self-motivation while providing constructive feedback to students along the way. Remember, UDL aims to improve and optimize learning for all people. Additionally, to summarize, you'll want to provide means of engagement through praise and approval for your students, through thinking about the long-term goals and impacts that you have in your course and how you're presenting them, and creating opportunities for socialization and collaboration, like we talked about through group work, peer feedback, and things like that. You'll want to provide varying options for rewards and also offer competitive assignments. And also consider real world applications so that students aren't completing just in school assignments, but doing things that can be applied to the real world, such as learning service projects or community-based projects. With that, I would like to say thank you for watching this video. There will be 2 additional videos as a part of this 3-part series on UDL. The second is on representation, the third is on action and expression. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm Brianna Van Buskirk, the instructional designer here at Caldwell. You can also reach out to Wiki, who is our instructional technologist. Thank you.